How's everybody today? Today is Wednesday, September 3rd, the day that we are recording this episode for you guys.
We recently, today actually, I guess, lack of indictments for the Breonna Taylor case came down. If you want to lay out what happened, Nydea, just in case people don't know what's going on.
Yes. So, as many people may know or may not know, Breonna Taylor is an EMT who was asleep in her home when police entered with a no-knock warrant. Her boyfriend, and they were looking for a person who Breonna Taylor was loosely affiliated with. I think it was, somebody she was loosely affiliated with that was already in their custody. They came into her home with a no-knock warrant, and her boyfriend sent off a warning shot because he thought he was having a home invasion. As a result, they fired back, shooting multiple times and killing Breonna Taylor. It took months and months for this case to get prosecuted. And now today, on the day of prosecution, no one was charged with murder, and only the officer who hit the neighbor's house was charged with wanton endangerment for shooting blindly into a home, not the home of Breonna Taylor. Some of the biggest issues, right, with this is that it seems to people of color, and to poor people, and to trans people, and to disabled people, and people who are constantly killed by police, that it just feels that you matter less because the police can come into your home, shoot you, kill you, and then not get charged with a murder. And so the Defund the Police movement was an organic movement made by prison abolitionists and leftist organizers, really calling for in a policy. They're calling for local municipalities to reallocate the funding that they spend on policing. Crime is historically down across the United States, lower than it's been in decades. If you ask people, they'll probably say that crime is up. Crime is actually way lower than it has been. And what they're saying is people of color especially know. Intuitively, we know that because our communities have been historically divested in, we have to participate in criminalized activities to be able to live. And those are things, right, that wouldn't happen if we had the kind of investment that suburban communities have. Even in Chester County, the median income here is $90,000, but in Coatesville, it's $30,000. Coincidentally, where all the people of color live. Strategic divestment is nothing new or nothing unrecognizable. So what we're truly asking people of color, trans people, disabled people, all the people that find themselves in these communities of poverty, we're asking that our fund allocations look like those of our suburban counterparts, right? We want economic development. We want community investment. We want our pool open, or we want our community centers. We want anti-poverty initiatives and medical centers. We want to be able to do things that really fulfill us and not make us feel like, oh, we don't have a bus that goes to a college, and so we might not be able to get our degree. If we can't afford a car, we can't get a good job. And now we're resorted to doing things that are criminalized, like possibly selling drugs or doing sex work or any of criminalized activity that may earn us police contact. And so really the way to solve crime is to allocate funding into communities. And this is the policy call that people are calling for when they say defund the police.
Yeah, and I think that it's because of the slogan is so easy to work the other way. Do you know what I mean? To scare people with that. That's why I say I hate that slogan. I really do. But the idea behind it, like you laid it out, it's like, why are communities policed differently depending on the people who live there?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I thought that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez really nailed it on the head when they're like, you know, what does defund the police look like? It looks like the suburbs,
It looks
right?
like the suburbs.
And it looks like the Downingtown Police Department. You know,
High
when
different.
I think that unfortunately we have these kind of like stereotypes, right? We've allowed these, not just stereotypes on racial, but like community stereotypes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I can't tell you how often people look at, you know, Coatesville versus Westchester. I mean, our poverty rates are pretty darn close. You know what I mean? Our crime rates are pretty darn close.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between Westchester and Coatesville is in Westchester, more people look like me, and in Coatesville, more people look like you. And that goes to your strategic divestment, right?
Yeah. And the thing that we're asking for is to not have strategic divestment, to have less of a system that doesn't seem to be working for us, that causes over surveillance for us, that could possibly be deadly for us, to have a little bit less of that, and to have a little bit more of community investment. And then also the burden is on us to work towards a world where we have just much less need for policing. We want to have a world where we are doing well, where we are healed, we have all of our needs met, and we don't even really need to be policed as much anymore. It looks like the suburbs when people get, you know, what do you want us to look like? The Wild Wild West? Nope. We just want to look like, you know, Westchester. That's it.
And in a way, you know, and I know there's that knee-jerk reaction a lot of people have of like, oh my God, they're defunding the police. But in reality, what Nydea and I are saying actually makes police's job easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if we get what we want, the police will be in less danger. They won't have to work as hard because they'll have support staff there to help them for mental health crises so that they don't have to deal with that. I feel like a lot of police officers are very well intentioned. They're not trying to go out there and they don't have a chip on their shoulder. But if you put them in a situation that they don't need to be in and then they make a mistake, then they have to live with that forever too. I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also a mistake as a police officer and a mistake as a carpenter isn't the same kind of mistake. When like a human can be killed, murdered because of your mistake, it's not the same mistake. And they're like, well, doctors murder people all the time, and you know, and EMTs murder people all the time, but they're held at a high standard of accountability. Doctors don't just murder people and doctor it tomorrow or go on a paid administrative leave.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pain and trauma for a lot of people for the system of policing, and I think it's a lot to talk about and a lot to resolve. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes people treat me like I'm like a gangbanger. Like I don't like slinging drugs, so I don't like the cops, and that's not the actual truth. The actual truth is the police have done harm to me and to my community, and I have the tension there. And when people say, oh, well, the community needs to improve their relationships with the police. No, the police need to improve their relationships with the community by allocating their fundings into things that will better fund the community. That is, I think, where I am with it.